Welcome back, and I need to make a confession. In my last video, I may have been a little too harsh on Alcides Escobar. I ranked all 9 of the Royals' 2026 Hall of Fame finalists, including Esky, and I said he probably should never be in the Hall. To make up for it, I'm dedicating this video to Esky, but if you know me, I just cannot make a normal video. I'm what the kids would call a sicko. I have dedicated full videos to former All-Star Ken Harvey and occasional pitching stud Kyle Davies. When thinking of a topic to discuss regarding the 2015 World Series team, I first turned to Dusty Coleman. And for my Lone Chiefs video on this channel, I discussed Quinn Gray, one of the quarterbacks in Kansas City Chiefs history. Even I forgot he was briefly a Chief. So for that reason, I'm dedicating this video to Alcides Escobar's Washington Nationals career, not his Royals career. Why? Because I can, and because I want to. For me to discuss Esky's Royals career would be easy, and quite frankly, he does not need an introduction. So I'll make a brief one anyways. He was acquired in the trade that sent Zach Greinke to the Brewers. Yes, Uni, you were also in that trade. With Esky immediately becoming the team's starting shortstop. He was a big piece for the team's deep playoff run in 2014 and World Series championship in 2015. While he was never known for his bat, it was his defense and durability that kept him in Kansas City for 8 full seasons. His final season in KC, though, was one to forget. He spent the summer of 2018 splitting starts at shortstop with former top prospect Adalberto Mondesi, the first time in his Royals career he was not the everyday shortstop. He would eventually lose the job entirely by September. He still made 104 starts at shortstop, 139 starts total including starts at second, third, and center field, but he had a 63 OPS plus and was worth negative 2.1 WAR, largely due to the games he played out of position. With free agency approaching, it appeared his time as an everyday major leaguer was over. He signed a minor league deal with the Orioles for the 2019 season, but was granted his release during spring training. He would later sign with the White Sox and spend much of the season with their AAA team, later requesting his release under some interesting circumstances according to Esky himself. He spent the 2020 season in Japan, playing alongside former Royal Nori Aoki. I would not call his 2020 season bad, but at least on the field, it was far from memorable. He remained a free agent when the 2021 season began, but that would soon change. After 2 years away from the majors, his former team, the Royals, happened to be in the market for some shortstop depth. Adalberto Mondesi, who replaced Esky as the team shortstop, had been on and off the injured list. Nicky Lopez started the season off hot, but was cooling off quickly. The next guy on the depth chart, Hanser Alberto, had 22 major league starts as shortstop entering the season, and none since 2018. All they needed was a warm body in AAA, and an old friend just happened to be available. On May 4th, Esky was signed a minor league deal with the Royals, immediately reporting to AAA Omaha. Was there optimism that he could return to the major league roster? Sure, but he would need to prove in AAA first that there was still something left in the tank. And believe it or not, there might have been. He only appeared in 35 games for Omaha, but he hit .274, .311, .452, including 5 home runs. For the now 34-year-old Esky, that was an impressive showing. By July though, it seemed like the Royals were going to give Nicky Lopez every chance to prove he had a role in the team's future, which blocked Esky's path back to Kansas City. However, there may have been a path back to the majors through another team, which is where the Washington Nationals come in. The Nationals were 2 years removed from winning their first World Series, but their window was closing. Max Scherzer was approaching free agency and was unlikely to return to DC. Kyle Schwarber signed a 1-year prove-it deal to try and resurrect his old power-hitting self, and while he did just that, an extension seemed out of the question. Trey Turner only had 1 more year of control left after the season, and while Juan Soto still had a couple years before free agency, what point was there to keep him if there was no other talent around him? What complicated the Nationals situation even further was the fact they were still competitive entering July. They had a 40-38 record, but more importantly, they were only 2.5 games out of the division lead. General manager Mike Rizzo was not ready to sell, and do you blame him? Unfortunately, both the Nationals starting shortstop Trey Turner and their backup shortstop Jordy Mercer were battling different injuries. Turner was day-to-day after jamming his finger diving into a base, and early on July 2nd, Jordy Mercer was placed on the injured list with a right quad strain. With their internal options thinning, the Nats selected the contract of Humberto Arteaga. I highly doubt Nationals fans remember that name, but there's a slim chance that Royals fans might. He spent part of the 2019 season on the Royals after one of Adalberto Mondesi's many injuries. I won't sugarcoat it, he was terrible. He hit only 197, 258, 230 over 41 games and had not appeared in the majors since. For Washington's AAA club that year, he was somehow worse, hitting 172, 206, 230. This guy was now the starting shortstop for a contending team. I'd like to think Data Moore saw this, felt sorry for Mike Rizzo, and called him, saying something like, "Hey, we know that Arteaga guy sucks, and I want to see Esky get one last shot in the majors. You want him?" Mike's like, "Yeah, sure. How much cash do you want?" Data answers, "Yes." Silence. Mike says, "Awesome, I'll send the paperwork to the league," and Dayton ends the call by saying, "God bless." Yep, only a few hours after Arteaga was promoted, the Nationals acquired Alcides Escobar for cash considerations. Esky was promoted the next day, with Arteaga being designated for assignment. He only played one game for the Nationals. The highlight of his Nationals career was the sacrifice fly. He has not appeared in the majors since. When looking at the comments for the MLB Trade Rumors article announcing the trade, the first comment asks, "But why?" The first response answers the question. It was death due to injuries, but let me provide another perspective, as the 2021 Nationals remind me of a certain Royals team, specifically the 2017 Royals. The 2017 Royals, like the 2021 Nationals, were 2 years removed from their 2015 World Series victory. Entering the season, they knew this was likely their last chance. Lorenzo Cain, Eric Hosmer, Mike Moustakas, even Alcides Escobar were all about to hit free agency. They entered July with a 39-39 record, 3 games out of first place. Getting a jump start on the rebuild was probably the smart idea, but they continued to win games throughout July. They needed to make one more run just for old time's sake. They brought back Melky Cabrera, a player general manager Data Moore had long coveted, and made a 6-player trade with the Padres that deserved its own video. The rebuild would not start ahead of schedule. Unfortunately, the magic ran out and the Royals failed to even finish above 500. The 2018 Royals lost 104 games, with most of their stars wearing different jerseys. The Nationals were eyeing the same future. Dark days were ahead. But like the 2017 Royals, they had one more chance to make a run. Maybe trading for Esky was just delaying the inevitable, but he was cheap depth that made the team better. You ask, but why? I say, why not? So Alcides Escobar, after spending the 2019 season in the minors and the 2020 season in Japan, was back in the bigs. Let's be honest, expectations were low. All he had to do was be a replacement level player while others were recovering from injury. Yet in his second game as a National, he pulls out a 3-hit performance. In the next game, his first hitting leadoff, a spot he was very familiar with in Kansas City, he had another 3-hit game, including a couple of RBIs. A couple weeks later, he had a game where he hit not just his first home run as a National, but also a walk-off RBI single. He ended up settling into the leadoff spot for the Nationals, splitting starts between second and short, and he genuinely looked like his old self. He ended July hitting a very respectable 271, 340, 375, outperforming expectations and possibly even forcing himself into a larger role. Unfortunately, while Esky would enjoy a solid July, the rest of the team would fall out of the playoff race. Unlike the 2017 Royals I mentioned earlier, the 2021 Nationals would become sellers, making multiple trades including shipping off Max Scherzer, Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber, and Josh Harrison. The Nationals maybe could have found a contender to take on Esky, possibly even make a profit on their investment, but instead he would remain on the team through the deadline. In fact, he would become the primary shortstop now that Trey Turner was a Dodger. I mean, Jordy Mercer got hurt again. Who else in DC was going to play shortstop? Humberto Arteaga, Taylor Heineke, Joe Biden, Chris Christie. Esky settled into the number 2 spot in the batting order, and somehow he was able to keep the performance up. Over 75 games, he hit 288, 340, 404. He was worth 1.6 WAR over those games. His 105 OPS plus is higher than any of his prior seasons. It was the first time his slugging was above 400, and that 288 average is better than all but one of his full-time seasons. He hit 4 home runs over half a season, which may not be a lot, but his career high was 7. And those 53 runs might be the most impressive. First off, that's only one less than his 2018 season. But that's about a 100-run pace in a year where only 6 players in the National League broke 100 runs. I know it was only half a season, but Esky looked like the guy the Royals traded for a decade earlier. Crap, he might have been better. I'm not going to sit here and say 2021 was the best season of his career, period, but it might have been the most impressive considering the circumstances. He spent the past 2 seasons out of the majors, and the last time he was on an MLB roster, he was worth negative 2.1 WAR. He was approaching the wrong side of his 30s, and let me remind you, when the season started, Esky was still a free agent. His major league career appeared to be over, yet thanks to a few injuries to 2 different teams, Esky proved to the world that he should not be written off just yet. With that being said, there was no guarantee Esky would keep this form for 2022. Let's be honest for a second. The last time he had a season worth more than 2 wins was 2014. There was a real good reason why he started the season as a free agent and hadn't appeared in the majors since 2018. Is it possible he found the fountain of youth? Sure. But entering free agency, I wouldn't blame teams for being skeptical. Thankfully for Esky, all it takes is one team, and the Nationals happen to be interested in bringing him back. On October 5th, right after the regular season ended, the Nationals re-signed Esky to a 1-year Major League contract worth $1 million. The Nats did not have a clear short-term answer at shortstop, so they essentially brought him back until they could figure out a plan. If he plays well, then maybe they could flip him at the trade deadline for a prospect or 2. I don't blame Esky for taking the job security. There wasn't really a guarantee he could find more money or consistent playing time elsewhere, so why not return for 1 more year? Esky would be the opening day shortstop for the 2022 Nationals, but unfortunately, it looked like the magic finally ran out. He ended the month of April hitting 185, 254, 215. Barely worse than Humberto Arteaga's Royals tenure. His struggles went beyond his offense. During a May 4th game against the Rockies, Esky committed 2 errors, one of which led to back-to-back 2 RBI hits. The Rockies won by 3. Esky said after the game, "I fielded the ground ball perfectly, and then when I tried to transfer it, it just got tangled up in my hand. They're errors that I call dumb. I don't want to commit them, and I feel extremely bad. And I feel even worse since Patrick Corbin did a tremendous job for us out there." Speaking of, I have to point out that after this same game, Nationals manager Dave Martinez declared that the story today should be about Patrick Corbin. For me, he's back. From that point forward, Corbin would have a 6.12 ERA. I guess that's better than the 6.31 ERA he had for the season. Back to Esky. He would play a little better over the remainder of May, but on the final day of the month, in the same ballpark he would clinch his lone World Series title at, his luck may have ran out for good. He makes a diving stop and throw to end the inning, but unfortunately, his right leg gets caught during the play and he needs assistance walking off the field. The next day, he is placed on the injury list, with young infielder Luis Garcia taking not just his roster spot, but also his starting role. By the time Esky returned from the injury list, nearly a month later, Garcia had claimed the starting shortstop job outright. He instead returned to a utility role, but truth be told, he barely played at all. For the remainder of the season, he only appeared in 7 more games. 2 of them starts, and I'm not joking when I say this, 2 of those games were on the mound. On July 5th, he made his major league pitching debut in a blowout loss to the Phillies, and 3 days later he pitched again after another blowout loss. To his credit, he did not give up a run in his first appearance, and even better, he finished the season with a higher WAR pitching than Patrick "He's Back" Corbin. While the writing may have been on the wall well before the trade deadline, a specific trade made by the Nationals made it clear that Esky's time was up. Juan Soto, after watching multiple teammates from the 2019 World Series team get traded, would finally get traded himself. Among the players acquired was C.J. Abrams, a young top prospect that happened to be a shortstop. The Nationals, who partly brought back Esky because they did not have a plan at shortstop long-term, now have a plan. Luis Garcia moved back to second base, his natural position, and Esky would be released to make room for Luke Voit, also acquired in the trade. Esky has not appeared in the majors since. You know, we came very close to Eric Hosmer ending Esky's major league career, as he was originally going to be in that trade instead of Voit. Just a little piece of irony. Now, this is not the end of his playing career, far from it. Since his release from the Nationals, he has played in both the Mexican and Venezuelan winter leagues, and he's played well. Even at 39 years young, Esky is still hitting leadoff home runs, and before you ask, no, it was not on the first pitch, but it's still a leadoff home run at 39 years old. Can I just point out something for a moment? something I did not even think of when making the Hall of Fame video. Among the requirements to be considered for the Royals Hall of Fame is to not be an active Major League player for at least 3 years. Esky's 2021 comeback reset the clock for his Royals Hall of Fame candidacy. If he never returned to the majors or even minors, he is likely on the 2023 Royals Hall of Fame ballot, joining Ned Yost, who was quickly elected, plus 3 players that have been on the past several ballots, Carlos Beltran, Billy Butler, and Yordano Ventura, and 2 players that have since been dropped off the ballots, Johnny Damon and Jason Vargas. No Lorenzo Cain, no Joakim Soria, and none of the HDH trio. Now, only 3 names could be selected due to the smaller ballot size, but let's add Esky's name to this list. Even if you're only picking 3 names, you can make a strong argument for Esky in your top 3. For me personally, I'm not sure if I'd include him over Ned, Billy, and Beltran, but if the Royals handed out a 4th vote for a 7-person ballot, Esky would honestly be the 4th vote. Now, this is just a fun hypothetical. I'm not trying to say or imply anything about Esky's comeback with the Nationals, but it may have accidentally made his path to the Royals Hall of Fame much, much harder. I'll admit, it's not really fair to make that comment to begin with because, well, Esky just wants to play baseball, and I absolutely respect that. Even today, he's still hitting leadoff home runs like it's Game 1 of the 2015 World Series. His brief national stint was one more chance at chasing a dream, and for the first part of it at least, it felt like more than a dream. If you enjoyed this and want to see more, then feel free to like, subscribe, and even share this video. Believe it or not, this is not the first time I've highlighted a random comeback attempt by a shortstop, as I have previously discussed Miguel Tejada's random appearance with the 2013 Royals. I'm here to talk about all those random moments in Royals history, including those you'd rather not remember. I mean, someone has to document all this. Until next time.
Terrence Gore, we were telling you about him earlier in the game. First of all, he's only the 2nd Royal to wear the number 0 on his jersey. George Scott was the first in 1979. Spent most of this year at Class A Wilmington.